I'm Brittany Carbone, founder and CEO of TONIC CBD and co-founder of Tricolla Farms and Bardo Labs. Collectively, we create a vertically integrated hemp company focused on sustainability and high-quality, accessible healing. Today, we are going to take you through a day in the life of a vertically integrated company, from our practices on the farm to how we extract that flower through Bardo Labs, and then how it ultimately becomes your TONIC products. Cheap Cheers gonna help us out along the way. Right here, we are at Tricolla Farms, where it all begins. This is our family-owned and operated hemp farm. We practice sustainability through and through. We are certified organic through NOFA, and we are really excited to show you around and show you how we do what we do and why we do it. All right, let's take a walk through the field, show you guys around. Oh, look who we have here. My husband, a partner in life and hemp, Brittany Carbone. He's our lead grower at Tricolla Farms. He's also the co-founder and CEO of Bardo Labs, our processing facility. And what are you doing, Eric?
Right now, just simply going through the fields. I'm just looking at the buds to see how far progressed they are. We are in the middle of harvest. This is one of our CBG fields. CBG grows a little bit differently time-wise than our CBD plants, so I'm just simply coming through, inspecting the colas, inspecting the buds, seeing how far they are from being harvested.
How can you tell when they're ready to go?
There's a few different ways. You can check the trichomes. If the trichomes are starting to turn a milky color, it's usually a good indication. But one of the simplest ways is to look at the pistils on the plant. When they are premature, they are typically a white or a reddish or a pinkish color, depending on the strain. As time progresses, those will start to turn amber or orange.
What's a pistil?
Pistil is the female reproductive part of the plant.
So if you look really closely, this flower right here, you see those orange little hairs? Those are the mature pistils.
So these plants are probably going to be ready. We can actually start right about now, but we want to let that CBG develop a bit more. So we'll probably harvest these by the end of the week. We'll probably give it another 4 or 5 days, and then we'll start cutting these down. Yeah,
and something that we have to be very mindful of as hemp farmers is our THC levels. So, if we let the plants kind of hang out in the field for too long, the good thing is the CBD percentage will go up. The bad thing is that THC levels will rise with that CBD level. CBG plants, on the other hand, we don't have to worry about that, right?
Not so much. There's still going to be trace amounts, but we don't have to worry about that level spiking as much as we do in the CBD fields.
CBG plants will primarily just produce CBG, and really
very, very minimal levels, even lower levels than the CBD varieties. CBG is a little bit different than CBD, and we're excited to process these and harvest them. It's our first year, so we're excited to see what we could do in the lab with them. So another thing we do here at Tricolla Farms, rather than using pesticides, we utilize complementary planting. Pests come in a variety of ways. A lot of people just assume pests are bugs and stuff like that, but here, in the valley, we have to help mitigate problems with deer, rabbits, all different.
Especially when the plants are small, the deer really like to come and
nip
take a little bite off. Yeah.
So in order to keep the deer away, we plant and surround our fields with marigolds. The deer do not like marigold. It keeps them away, and it keeps our plants healthy. There are other complementary plants we put in the ground, such as sage, lemon balm, basil, pineapple sage, rosemary, marjoram.
We grow zucchini. We grow. We had a whole patch of corn over here.
Tomatoes.
Grew a couple pumpkins this year. That was the first. But yeah, we really want to introduce as much diversity to the land as possible. That's a great
wildflower as well as pollinators for the bees, help keep the bee population going.
Yep.
There's certain weeds that will grow in between our rows that some of the pests, we have a Japanese beetle problem here in New York, and there's a certain type of weed that grows. It's reminiscent of like a wild sunflower, I would say. I'm not sure what the name is.
It looks like a lily pad, but
yeah. But the Japanese beetles will go all over those plants and stay off of our hemp plants. So rather than rip them out of the ground, we let them coexist with our hemp plants. They don't have a large root system, so it's just a single tap root. It doesn't interfere with our roots of our plants. It's not going to steal any nutrients away from them, but they're going to act as somewhat of a bodyguard to our plants and keep certain pests away. So we just let them thrive. We try to be
Good decoys.
we try to be as hands off as possible with pest mitigation, and we do that by complementary planting. Let nature do it for us rather than having to rely on pesticides or anything like that.
And that really kind of captures exactly our philosophy at Tricolla Farms, that's working in concert with nature. Nature knows best at the end of the day. We can try to, invent new equipment and machinery and stuff like that, or chemicals to try to do the job, but
you can't compete with Mother Nature.
You end up depleting the land, you end up depleting resources, and you end up with things that we shouldn't be ingesting. So if you let nature just do what it does, you'll get some really good results, because you're not going to outsmart nature.
And she'll teach you along the way. Like I said, with that weed that we let grow, we found that out by accident. We just happened to go through our fields one day, and boom, we saw this one plant with hundreds of these beetles on them. There were none on our plants, so we just decided to let them do their thing. Mother Nature was, throwing us a bone on that one, so we just ran with it. Yeah.
So like we're saying, this is harvest season, so this is, the end of our season, but it's been, a whole summer long process. I mean, we start planting, June 1st is our first day of planting usually, but the plants actually start a little bit earlier.
About a month before, so yeah. We start everything in a greenhouse rather than direct sowing the seeds into the ground. It's a little more responsible. Your results are much better if you raise them in a greenhouse. So we'll typically plant. This year we split it into 2 cycles of planting. We did our first cycle. We planted the seeds May 1st in a greenhouse. And then the second round of plants we did around the 15th. So we gave ourselves a little bit of a 2-week gap, just in order to make sure we could get the plants in the ground safely and within due time, and as well just give us a little bit of buffer during our harvest season, so not everything is ready at the same time.
So while the plants are, little babies, just little seeds propagating in the greenhouse, we're doing things at the farm to get ready for their arrival.
Yeah, so we got to do our field prep, which primarily consists of making sure we're giving the soil what it needs to support plant health. We use all organic materials. We use certified organic chicken manure that's been composted. It's super high in nitrogen. The plants love nitrogen, especially in the vegetative state. It's their primary fuel source in order to grow. But the chicken manure does more things than just feed the plant. It also feeds the microbes in the soil. The plants aren't going to grow unless there is a good biodiversity in your soil. The microbes in the soil are actually what's breaking down the fertilizers and putting them into a source that the plants are then able to uptake. Besides getting the manure down, we are prepping the fields. We get our irrigation systems in line. We get our biodegradable mulch in the ground. One of the main reasons we use the plastic mulch, besides keeping weeds out from the base of our plants when they're small, is in order to use less water. We have an irrigation line under that plastic mulch that we're able to water the plants at any time of day and apply water and nutrients directly to the root system. But that plastic mulch also creates a moisture barrier. So as the soil warms up and evaporates, it hits the plastic and then falls back into the soil. So we're able to use about 40% less water than most farms. Water is a resource that we don't want to abuse. We don't want to take for granted. Rain obviously helps. Natural rain, if it rains, we won't turn on our irrigation system. This year was a little bit of a drought, so we did have to utilize our irrigation system, but we want to do so in the most responsible way possible.
And the irrigation system also allows you to feed the plants what you need, like nutrients and everything like
nitrogen, that. Nitrogen, high levels of nitrogen in the vegetative state, and then once they start to flower, we really want to kick up the phosphorus and the potassium. That's really going to help develop big fat buds. But again, we use all certified organic nutrients. One of the main things we love to use is what's called worm juice. It's basically a compost tea created by worm castings. Worms are probably one of the most beneficial parts of any farm. Worms are a farmer's best friend. They help aerate the soil. Their waste helps create pathways within the soil as they move through, and creates air to get into the soil. It helps the soil absorb water better. Yeah.
It's all about the soil.
Yeah. As farmers, we farm soil. Everybody thinks like you're a crop farmer, but the reality of it is we are farming soil. We want to make sure that the soil is as healthy and as biodynamic and biodiverse as possible in order to create a good, healthy environment for the plants to live in.
And not only does hemp capture a lot of carbon dioxide on its own, soil is really the key to be able to actually take carbon dioxide that is trapped in the air from all of our emissions and everything like that, and actually be able to sink it back into the ground. So the overtilling that's used in like industrial agriculture, that just kills the soil. It kills all the biodiversity, it kills all the moisture out of the soil, and when that happens, it's not going to absorb that CO2. So then you're like, you could really do a lot to fight climate change and really get the greenhouse gases that are already present in our atmosphere, get them out by doing things like taking care of our soil. And
so
really
the soil will absorb a lot of the CO2 that the plant uptakes, and then as it gets released back into the atmosphere, it goes through the plant rather than overtilling soil where the CO2 will just kind of evaporate out of the soil and just emit, carbon dioxide back into the air. But when it comes through the plant, it filters and gets released as oxygen. It's a much better way to do things for the environment. As you can see, we still have plenty of grass growing in between our rows. We really try to respect the soil, keep the soil covered. You don't want too much dirt exposed because you can the soil will start to erode and cause bigger problems.
Right. So when it rains, we want the soil to capture the water. If there's nothing on top of the soil and it is dry, that water will just run off. So having something to kind of buffer it and be able to trap all that moisture and kind of lock it in is super important. Harvest is in full swing. So over here is the co-owner of Tricolla Farms and my dad, Rick, cutting down the plants, and we're putting them in this hay wagon to bring it into our barn to hang dry. There's Brian over here. Brian has been our original Tricolla Farms employee since way back in the day, before there was hemp. Brian is an OG farmer for sure.
Hey, Brian.
Hi.
Everybody's very busy, so they're very annoyed with me interrupting them. That's harvest season. It's definitely the most labor-intensive time of the year, so we'll let them get back to work. We're going to interrupt Eric from his harvest work for a minute so he can tell us what this process is all about.
So we hand harvest, we hand cultivate, we hand hang everything in order to retain cannabinoids and as many terpenes as possible. By doing it this way, it lets us process things in the best way possible. We get very good results. The plants are not handled too heavy and nice and gentle. We hand hang everything, and once it's all hung, we buck everything. And once it dries, it usually stays for about 4 or 5 days, maybe a little longer depending on the weather. But once they're all dry, when we take it down, we hand buck everything to strip all the bud, all the precious bud off the stem. And then we hold on to the stems, we mulch them and reintroduce them into our fields to be as sustainable as possible and help feed the soil when we're not using it.
Everything that we do at Tricolla Farms is a true labor of love. Like I said, it's a family-owned and operated farm, and we are a pretty crazy family, but we all have the same end goal in mind, to really do something that can help a lot of people, do something that is good for the earth and good for the people. So, this is it. This is our little empire right here. And next up, we're going to take you over to Bardo Labs, which is the next part of the plant's journey before it gets to you, the consumer. We are at Bardo Labs. This is the next stop on the plant's journey after it's harvested from the farm. So we're going to take you through and show you what our CO2 extraction process and distillation process is all about. We've got a mask up. Got our little booties on, looking good. All right, come on back. So at Bardo, we do things a little bit differently. We're not these giant labs with huge throughputs of thousands and thousands of pounds of material a day. We only extract as much as we can grow on Tricolla Farms. What this does is lends itself to a much more sustainable hemp industry, because the way things operate right now, there's a lot of hemp being grown unnecessarily because there's nobody to process it. We want to make sure that we are not turning over any land unnecessarily, and that we are only extracting Tricolla Farms high quality artisanal flower through our machines. Now, here we have Larson, our Chief Science Officer at Bardo, and he's going to show us the next stop after the plant is harvested. If you guys remember the bucking process that we went through at Tricolla Farms, it all ends up just like this.
All right, hi everybody. So the material that comes from the farm comes to us looking like this. Now, when we extract our material, we're extracting from mostly flower. There's hardly any fan leaf. So the highest density of cannabinoids are there, the highest density of terpenes are there. It's the highest quality product you could possibly extract, and we're very lucky to be able to be vertically integrated and process such high quality material from Tricolla. So let's take a look at what the machine that actually does the work looks like. This is our supercritical fluid extractor that uses highly pressurized and hot carbon dioxide as a solvent, and it uses that solvent to remove the cannabinoids, terpenes, and waxes into the oil that we know and love. We are able to separate them by wax, cannabinoids, and terpenes, so our first separation actually occurs here. And once it comes out of here, we take it into the refinery lab and process it into distillate.
All right, so the vision for Bardo goes beyond just being able to provide tonic with high quality extracts. We also provide other brands who are aligned with our vision of a sustainable hemp industry with single origin extracts, and we are able to, with Larson's talent, turn that into novel CBD products and other cannabinoid products. And one piece of equipment that we have that really helps us do that and really helps us hone in on the minor cannabinoids that are becoming a really important part of product development and what brands would like to see in their products, this machine right here.
Absolutely. So let's take a brief look, come on through, Haley, at our flash chromatograph. We use this piece of machinery to develop all of our individual cannabinoid products. And let me show you some of our peak separation here. So what we have the ability to do is use this wonderful piece of equipment to separate the individual cannabinoids by their chemical properties. So we have the ability to take any particular grouping of cannabinoids and separate them out into their individual isolates or into any combination that we so desire.
All right, so like Larson was saying, after that material comes out of our CO2 extraction machine and that leaves us with our crude extract, we take it into this lab right here to be refined.
Absolutely, so come on in. Our goal in this room is to separate the cannabinoids from everything else. We want to get the cannabinoids as pure as we can while retaining that full spectrum character that everybody knows and loves. So we use a process that involves turning the cannabinoids into a liquid, turning them very cold, and then using this apparatus over here to separate out the waxes. Now these waxes are a really good source of materials for topical products, for the beginnings of biodegradable plastics and biofuels. It's a really wonderful side product that we're able to make here at Bardo. And once it goes through a series of filtrations, all the way down to the level where we can actually filter out individual bacteria, we are able to move from there to the rest of the machinery that you see in this room that, long story short, yields our high quality 83% CBD distillate in a single pass.
We'll let Larson get back to work and we're going to take you to the next step.
Thanks, guys.
Once the extracts are produced and we have our raw materials and our starting materials to work with, we take it right in here. From extracting our herbs in small batches to blending, bottling, labeling, Emmy and Sarah, they do it all. You see Emmy here finishing up a fresh batch of Flex Tonic, and Sarah is just finishing up straining our ashwagandha root. And yeah, this is where we fill, where we label, And this is also where a lot of the product development work that we were discussing with Larson takes place. So we use equipment like this over here to test the solubility of the herbs we extract for both Tonic and our clients at Bardo. And we run experiments and trials to ensure that everything that we are creating is not only effective, but safe, efficient, and stable. Really hope you guys enjoyed seeing what we're all about, seeing what goes into making your tonic products, and I hope you have a little bit of a different perspective going into your next CBD purchase and have a little bit more appreciation of the process that is behind the making of those products and really what goes into just, that simple product that you see on the shelf. There's so much more to it, so I hope that this gives you a little different perspective and opens your eyes a little bit more to the world of vertically integrated hemp.